Hello world of YouTube and welcome to the next list in List Week 2020, the worst albums of the year. Now, like I said on the songs list yesterday, I did not listen to every shitty record that came out this year, but I did listen to enough to have some opinions about some bad records, and that's really all I got. You already know how this works. There's bad albums. I'm going to roast them and for a couple minutes each, get increasingly more bad the more the list goes down. Let's go ahead and get started.
All the way around, all the way around.
So every year, there's a record that drops in the general pop scene, or music in general as well, that just feels the most lazy, the most complacent, the least effort felt like it was put into it. And Katy Perry's Smile was that record. And while that doesn't seem like a bad crime, given her particular genre, pop music had a dazzling year with a lot of incredible releases from new and older stars in the scene. Katy Perry's staunch averageness stuck out even more like a sore thumb. You know, and given the fact that some of these singles that are on this record have been in rotation for over a year prior to its release, it enhances that stench of laziness that I feel like propulsed this record higher up on my list, the more that I really stewed with it. You know, is the record outright offensive? No. And given how she, on this record, even modernized and sterilized that style that she was trying to make on her last outing that felt very trend hoppy, it's an even higher testament to how boring this record truly is. But I feel like I can't not put it on a list like this, given, again, comparatively to her other people in her genre, she felt like she was just punching under her already low weight. I don't look to Katy Perry for high concept pop or even like well nuanced pop. To me, Katy Perry is one of those pop stars that while she can sing a good hook, while she has crafted good hooks in her past, they haven't been as consistent or as dazzling as other people in her lane then, and even lesser so now. You know, there's other bland pop records that dropped this year, but even some of the ones that ended up on my worst list had more merit and showed more growth within that artist's personality than Katy Perry's Smile did. Which is weird, because she just had a kid. It speaks volumes that when a genre can thrive so heavily, given you have been in it for so long, you did not come to play like that. It's sort of upsetting to a degree. You know, contractual obligations suck, because they usually lead to records like this in the long run. You know, while a lot of people throw other records of theirs under the bus for different reasons, Father of All Motherfuckers sits in this realm of just general badness because it has a decent idea at its core. You know, resurrecting Foxborough Hot Tubs' sound isn't necessarily a bad idea. It led to my favorite of the trilogy, and it also proves that they can write some really shitty songs with this sound, given some of the lows on Dose. But the lows on here are just a different breed of bad. You know, they take this sound that already had some spotty execution and did it even worse. And again, it feels like this record stinks of contractual obligation. You know, and in a year where Green Day seemingly was trying to experiment with a lot of their old sounds, because they also did a network album eventually, this, again, even in comparison to that, feels like lost opportunity at something better. You know, with lazier attempts at writing something meaningful, bad hook work, just general shoddy performances. This record underperforms, by and large, and she's Green Day at one of their lowest points in their career thus far. Sit back and listen, close your eyes if you feel it, 'cause I'm questioning. I hated this record upon release, and I continue to just have a huge distaste for the sound of this project. You know, I'm not against cleaner sounding pop punk, but one of Neck Deep's better attributes to me was their approach to sound. to see that sort of flipped inversely on this project just doesn't sit well with me. I don't like a lot of the sheen this project presents, and I don't like that it leads to, or I don't like that some ideas that they do with some of the slower paced moments or some of the less energetic cuts provide this, again, diet version of sounds that already sound played out in rock and pop, or and rock and punk music. You know, some of the hook work is just really bland. A lot of the sounds on here are overly bland, but given the sheen production coat that this record has, just sets it that much lower on my list for me. For a band that I already didn't wholly love, to see them take away the one part of their sound that I thought was interesting just made me like them even less. Not to say that this record stinks of, like, label involvement, but it feels like somebody's budget was put in here for a very particular reason, and I don't think that reason resonates well with me, at least.
Calm me down.
Like I'll say in my listening log update, and like I said in yesterday's Worst Songs video, I never really was sold on Youngblood. But with that said, I do appreciate that there is somebody who is trying to be sold and marketed that taps into aspects of sort of counterculture or seen as not normal being throttled to a younger audience. And after listening to his record finally, I was glad that some of the songs that were, you know, teased before this didn't end up on here, but what's here still has that same surface level approach that I wouldn't doubt comes in some instances from a genuine place from Youngblood, but the production, the presentation, the overall tone that this project presents gives it the shallow, base level feeling that never lets me want to come back to it again. You know, I'm not a big fan of Youngblood's performance on here. I don't like a lot of the production on here as well. Not to say that I don't like cleanly produced things or things that have this sort of sheen to them, but the way that they sound on, like, Neck Deep and on this go kind of hand in hand and really underperform when I feel like, again, because I combed through the lyrics on here and I looked up on Genius, and it feels like in some instances he was genuinely trying to speak a message that would resonate with his younger audience. And I'm sure some of them really resonate with it. But even speaking as someone like my younger self, I don't think I would have bought Youngblood's shtick, personally. You know, again, even if his lyrics come from a very genuine place, the way that it's presented has this disingenuity to it that I don't think works, personally. You know, I don't hate the ideas, but I hate the songs.
Watch our friends fall off the time.
The adverse of that, I don't hate the message, but I hate the songs. The 1975's latest record, a band that I've already not been the biggest fan of. I've underscored a lot of their projects in comparison to a lot of my friends and contemporaries. They're just a band that I don't really like. I feel like they bloat their projects, and while I can respect them wanting to experiment sonically, I don't feel like any of their experiments normally hit the marker. And even on this project, while I can appreciate some of the electronic experiments, they have the same dull coding that a lot of the acoustic and rock-driven cuts have. You know, while it opens with this, outside of the Greta Thunberg sort of monologue, while it opens with this flashy, aggressive moment, the rest of the record doesn't have that same energy to it, and it's potent in blandness. This is a practice in testing the audience, not patience, but willingness to stay awake, in my opinion. While, again, I can appreciate some of the messages they're trying to say on here, I feel like it's the most preachy writing I've seen of a band like this in a long time. And when you would argue your demographic sits in the same lane as you, like, morally, I feel like it's sort of condemning your audience for just listening to you. And I feel like it spits in the face of your fan base in a way that none of your other records have had, even if I think you get pretentious as fuck, you don't get this preachy and pretentious on standard. And that combination with the bad, really slow burns and bland styles on here lead to just this terrible record that I really never want to spin again.
Be moving to Tan Rock, that's the end of that. No, I cannot talk a lot. Man, these niggas out here.
Lil Uzi Vert helped popularize this year the trend of beefy deluxe editions that have like a second record buried in the mix. A lot of artists did it this year, and while I don't need 2 albums with this style, the first Eternal to Take was already boring enough and way too much. It was already a huge meal that I knew I was never really going to want to finish. You know, between a lot of the embarrassing lines that are written on this to Uzi's performance feeling seemingly neutered, like he just didn't come to deliver, and with some of these instrumentals that I feel like do dazzle, Uzi kind of just sits in this muddling area on some of these beats. You know, while the shining point is the production, everything else really sort of undercuts, in my opinion. I don't think that I was the biggest Uzi Vert fan going into this, but this definitely left me never wanting to spin his stuff again, because I don't like his writing, I don't like his flow, I don't like the way he does the emo rap thing. I think other rappers and artists do it better, and I feel like this project needed not only a good trimming, but a few rewrites. It's just a rough listen, and the fact that it led to a trend that I did not like seeing other artists pursue this year made it that much higher on my list to me.
Should almost lose it, man. They keep moving the goalposts, don't they? Just cut to the chase.
Eminem already dropped one of the more mid-tier, low-tier albums of his career earlier this year, but to see him follow that up with a surprise second side B, full of scraps that mirror encore for how bad they are, really wasn't something I needed in my life. I hated this record. I didn't like Music to Be Murdered by side A, but I actively hated side B. This half also didn't have the saving grace that side A had, with some of those incredible features. None of that's present on this side. Some of the features here are fine, but nothing comes to the caliber of some of the features that were on that A side. With the return of some motifs he had on those bad records, to even more dad-tastic bars, and a Corona track that just feels too try-hard. It has all of the bad stuff seen on your typical bad Eminem record, or bad aspects of a good Eminem record, just ramped up to 10. While I appreciate that he does try on some tracks to tie more into the concept of the record, I don't care if it comes at the cost of everything else that's on here. This record sucks and sits as another low point in a career of an artist who feels like he's just trying to elongate his career unnecessarily. I actively hate this record, and I don't think it's worth anyone's time, fan or not.
Icon, suck me with my ice on. Me and my day ones too.
So I already have told you guys I don't like Lil Yachty. You know, while I think he has a nice personality, all of his projects that I've listened to over the last couple of years neuter that personality, and it feels like it's still Yachty running on the train of little ideas. And Lil Boat 3 is another notch in that belt. The production is very bland, and a lot of his hook work is monotonous, and his personality feels even more stripped away from that on this project. Some of the features work better than Yachty does on his own track, and a lot of the features don't do anything for me either. This is the textbook standard of a trap record I don't like. If you couldn't tell, I like some trap artists, I like some trap records, but Yachty is an artist that consistently under-delivers to me personally. I feel like he knows what he wants to make, but whether his labels or his friends, nobody lets him make it, and instead he churns out these projects that have the worst attributes of what Yachty could have pulled together, and Lil Boat 3 is just a testament to that. You know, I feel for the guy, because I feel like he's a nice dude, but I just don't like his music. More so than other artists that I do like but hate their music. Yeah, here's to hoping he, like, goes independent or something, but, like, his mainstream stuff, I don't fuck with. I would love to hear him just do another Broccoli, personally, even though that wasn't his song. I feel like his personality shined a lot more on that in that era, you know? I could use more of that from Yachty. Ever, do you wanna look at me forever? Justin Bieber coming back with a record that was touted as more mature isn't that. It's very much a seemingly written in a boardroom style mature record with really bafflingly bad lines, really standard production, and a performance from Bieber that mirrors a lot of the bland sterileness that people kind of throw up to him as. But the writing is what really sets this record back. You know, there's a lot of lines on here. I mean, obviously, Yummy, worst song of the year. But even Intentions, the other big single, or even Quavo on Intentions, like, he just sounds like he's phoning it in, you know, and the record, by and large, just doesn't work. Even Travis Scott, to get someone like Travis Scott to not go full Travis Scott for you is saying something. Because that dude always leaves his mark on a project if he's a part of it. And it just even feels sucked away. This is like a lifeless pop record. You know, when I talked about pop star, the form of a lifeless pop star, given that song's kind of written about Justin Bieber, it makes a lot of sense because Changes is that sort of record that a pop star from that song would make. You know, it feels like this vacuum of baffling oddities that is presented in the most bland of ways. It's bad. It's really, really bad. And not even bland. Some of it really is just bad, you know? It's a record I wouldn't wish upon my biggest foe because of how just bitter of a taste it leaves in my mouth. MGK really didn't need to do this. I already made like a mini 5-minute stand-up set roasting this record. You guys know I don't like this record at all. You know, I think a lot of the ideas are played out. While there was a record this year that I hold to a high caliber that does something similar, that record's writing, that record's presentation, that record's way of channeling the year really makes this record look like a fucking joke. From the derivative and base level songwriting that tries to tap into the most base level emotional resonance, to production that has the same sort of generic paint on it that feels like mall pop punk, to MGK's shitty singing. I think he's a very bad singer for this genre especially, but it feels like he's trying too hard to channel this style in a way that doesn't work for him. You know, it feels like it's clear that this record was wrought out of like an emergency desperation to continue your career in a way that you couldn't do prior because of a very infamous incident that happened between you and another rapper. You know, yes, this album is very aptly titled The Tickets to My Downfall, but I mean, given there are fans that are very forgiving and like this thing, good for them. I think this record is a flaming pile of shit. Travis Barker's great on it. That's cool. That's about it. And even he gets replaced with some generic trap production here and there on the project. It's just, you underutilize aspects that you're putting into this record, by and large, MGK, and it sucks. I stuck up for you, Black Eyed Peas. I liked your last record. I thought it was a good return to form for you guys. That saw you adapting some of the electro ideals on some of your lowest lows into some of the more old school hip hop mentality that coded your early projects. And then you come back with this? A carbon copy, bland as fuck, boring, poorly constructed reggaeton knockoff? Get the fuck out of here, Black Eyed Peas. You sicken me. Your hook work is awful. Your features seem really underutilized. And it seems like you literally just took Spanish 101 and made a record after you took the class. This is low tier in every aspect imaginable. I fucking hate this record, and I hate that the Black Eyed Peas are back in the worst way possible. The Black Eyed Peas sucking makes sense in 2020 because they were really in that low spot at the end of the last decade. But fuck, man. Or at the beginning of the last decade. But fuck, man. This sucks so bad on so many levels. You know, I made, again, a joke about how it has the same percussion throughout like 90% of the record. But it leads to this monotonous, cyclical experience that isn't worth your time. This record is awful. It's base level in the same way that MGK and Youngblood are, but in a completely different genre. And it sucks all the more for it. So it's my worst album of the year. That was my list. What did you think about it? Did you like it? Did you not? Let me know in those comments down below. What was your least favorite record of the year that you checked out? If you like this video, be sure to give it a like. If you want to see more of my music, gaming, and general nerdery content, be sure to subscribe. If you would like to read my top 20 worst of the year list on my Rate Your Music, which also features stuff like the new Selena Gomez, the new Marilyn Manson, LaRue's Supervision, along with other records. It's linked in the description on my Rate Your Music. Special thanks to my patrons if you want to join the ranks to get early access to content, exclusive content, or to help drive the community. It's linked in the description. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so very much for watching. Tomorrow is my Games in the Year list. I have been viral racked. You guys are getting lives and situations, and I'll see you another day.